And I think the second part of the question then was, okay, so now we treat this person. I will first always say, go and do exercise. That's my first prescription. And then next is go and see Dr. Jeeva, and we need a proper diagnosis. Because you have to listen. You know, when we graduate, you get a third ear. They go, congratulations, here's your third ear. Because you have to listen to that what patients often don't say. You almost have to read between the lines, shake the tree and see what falls out. But there are certain tests that we do, and that is why you need the psychiatrist for the proper diagnosis, because we all have ADHD traits. You know, we can go, oh, but I sound like that, or I like a lot of sex, or I eat a lot. That to me is then very important, and from there on, not everybody needs medication.
Okay, we'll talk about the non-medication treatment after your break.
Okay, before that, maybe we'll be preparing for this during the break. He says, I'm on Concerta.
Concerta,
this is something that you'll have to help me with. Concerta and Cipralex.
Yeah, Cipralex, yeah.
And demand sex every night. Am I unreasonable?
Demand, the word of demand.
We're going to deal with that when we return. And then, Kaya, we're still welcoming your calls on 011-634-9509. This is What's Your Take. Hector in for Masachaba. We are left with 18 minutes, so make sure you call now. Or you can SMS 33959.
This is your voice navigation system. In 800 meters, turn left, where you will hit a lamppost in approximately 1 minute. You will wake up in hospital in approximately 3 days. You will have no feeling in your legs for approximately the rest of your life.
To find out how drinking and driving could change the course of your life forever, visit www.drivedry.co.za. This message brought to you by the Brandhouse Drive Dry initiative.
Kaya FM 95.9. Listen to something just during the break, but we'll bring it to you, Kaya, live on air. Very interesting. But first, let's deal with that one. I'm on Concerta and Cipralex and demand sex every night. Am I unreasonable? That's from our SMS line.
Okay, Concerta is a long-acting form of Ritalin. It's a stimulant, and Concerta is a treatment for ADHD, especially in children and in adult. And Concerta works on dopamine and noradrenaline. Dopamine is the same chemical we were talking about earlier. So in ADHD, there's a low level of dopamine and noradrenaline, and Concerta increases the dopamine and noradrenaline by blocking the loss or the uptake of it. So that's fine. So they usually take Concerta in the morning. I don't know what dose. It's okay. The maximum dose using the Canadian guidelines for a child is 72 milligrams a day, and the maximum dose for using the Canadian guidelines again is 108 milligrams for adults. Most physicians in this country prescribe it, and the dose is usually not adequate. So that's one thing. But the other thing, he's using Cipralex. Cipralex is an antidepressant that works on serotonin. He might have had anxiety. That's why they use Cipralex, because serotonin is not a culprit in ADHD, and and Cipralex, since it works on serotonin, is the lowest on the totem pole for anxiety caused by ADHD. If the ADHD is primary and there's a secondary anxiety, then you would need an antidepressant that works on dopamine. If you want to use an antidepressant, you would need an antidepressant that works on dopamine and noradrenaline. The number one choice.
What's the connection between this Concerta and Cipralex?
So he's using antidepressant and he's using a stimulant. Now, I suspect, I don't know the story, that he might have had the sexual difficulty before the Concerta and the Cipralex. The Concerta itself, if the dose is right, it will control his urge and his need, and I don't think there'd be much of a problem that would be causing it. The Cipralex actually is notorious for reducing your libido. It causes a lot of problems sexually, so it is the last choice. So I think it is either when the Concerta wears out at 5 o'clock, because Concerta lasts about 8-9 hours, and it wears off, you lose control, and you get a bit agitated and you get nervous, and some people use sex to decrease the anxiety or just to relax. So that could be it. Or he might have had a high libido prior to these medications, because all ADHD are hypersexual, especially the hyperactive type. And in women, we have the inattentive type. Their libido is at an average level. So we need a more detailed history. How his libido and drive was before it? How was his libido and drive on any other medications? And is Concerta? He's fortunate that Concerta is that the Cipralex is not harming his libido. Everybody complains that the SSRI or the medication that works on serotonin like Prozac, Zoloft, Cipralex decreases your libido and causes erectile dysfunction sometimes. So he's got it good, but we need a more detailed history. And
do we know it's a man? Could be a woman. We don't know. Because the other thing about
the demand for sex every night.
Actually, the words. Yeah. You know what? I think if we use words like demand, because I mean, if somebody demands anything from me, I'm going to say, go away. So just the actual words that are being used, because
maybe it could be semantics.
No, maybe just
that he needs sex every night. He feels the urge to have sex every night. So is that normal?
Yeah, but he might have had his urge before these medications. We have to get a proper history. Secondly, the Concerta wears off by 4 or 5 o'clock if he takes it in the morning. So he has no stimulant the time he gets home if he's a regular 9 to 5 guy. And so we need a more detailed history, but this is easy to sort it out through his physician or to our office or something. This is not
because again, it's about proper history taking.
Yeah, it's totally.
And often patients don't tell us this. You know, how's it going? No, it's going fine. But actually, because they're too embarrassed to say, you know what, I need sex every night. And often people see their GP. They don't necessarily go to a psychiatrist.
But yes, that's true. But we have to, as we said, the premise we use that all ADHD or most ADHD are hypersexual. So the groundwork is already there. Now we just have to see what was his pre-morbid condition before he took the medication. Did the medication make it worse? Since the medication is getting more erratic. And some of the patients on stimulants, when you stop the stimulant, they crash. So they come down and they might get more agitated and irritable. And many people use food and drink and sex as comfort foods. So we need a more detailed, proper history. And we can easily connect with our office and we'll answer that.
And still to come, Kaya, sexual addiction recovery. And we also have some 10 tips for a healthy sexual relationship after a sex addiction. But first, we have to talk to Peter on the road. Peter.
My website later.
Hello, how are you?
Hi,
Very well, Peter.
I'm well. I collapsed at work a couple of weeks ago due to stress. I've been put on Epilum to counteract the stress effect and the anxiety. But now I've found that I have very reduced amounts of libido or a sex drive. When I finish the Epilum, will things go back to normal?
Yes, it will go back to normal, but I don't think just for the anxiety they gave you Epilum. Epilum is a mood stabilizer that has a multiple use. It's actually an excellent drug. It's one of the best drugs in the world. For children, we use it for epilepsy. In adults, especially in ADHD, we use it for aggression and impulsivity. So it's a mood stabilizer, and I don't think it's specifically for the anxiety, but when it's reduced or stopped or divided, your libido will come back. So don't worry, you can just keep on exercising, you know.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
And you know what he said there, he mentioned something around stress. And I often hear that there could be a link between stress and your sexual performance or life. Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, let's go. We both want to, we get so excited about this.
About relationships, you know, you find that you're so stressed and then it impacts on your libido and then on your relationship.
Makaya, people work hard. They really, really work hard. I mean, yes, Peter phoning in and say, I collapsed at work. And sometimes we have to listen to our bodies as well. Because Peter's body probably said, listen, he's going to kill us, so let's just collapse. So people drive themselves, because he sounded like quite a young man. And so sometimes this is what we have to do. We actually have to slow him down completely, put him on medication. It's not, I mean, it's probably not forever, but he has to look at lifestyle. Pack in the exercise, look at his diet, because so many other things go hand in hand with all of that as well. I did want to say something about SSRIs, that often what it also causes is delayed ejaculation, or women become anorgasmic. They don't have orgasm. So it's quite important to know if you're on an SSRI, Cipralex, Zoloft, all the ones that you've Prozac. A lot of men don't ejaculate, and they become very worried and tense about that. Or women say, my orgasms just disappeared. And when you actually say, well, it's your medication, because sometimes doctors don't take 2 minutes to just explain side effects.
Some of the side effects.
Because most of your psychiatric drugs will have a lot of side effects, and often it's loss of libido.
Yeah, I think he said he was stressed. Plus, earlier we talked about Concerta and ADHD, and I'd like to share a few seconds on the non-medication treatment of ADHD in adults. Number one, number two, number three, it's exercise.
Absolutely.
What location is to real estate, that's what exercise is to ADHD. If you learn nothing tonight, just go and exercise and you'll get it right, okay? But exercise doesn't mean 3 times a week, it means 5 times a day. Of course, we can't do that, that's why we have to add medication to it. Number 2, of all the vitamins and all the other omega vitamins that we use, the best one is the omega 369 fatty acids that helps all our adult ADHD patients and children. We put them on it. The next thing, diet. Reduce your carbohydrates, bread, rice, potato, pasta. Why? They're fatty foods. They're sluggish foods. They're lazy foods. They're not ADHD foods. The precursor of the neurotransmitters, we need proteins. So we've got to increase our proteins. White chicken, white fish, lentils, and even salads. Okay, now we got to go to the things we have to avoid. In children, we avoid sugars. Now in adults, what do you have to avoid? Nicotine, smoking. Smoking is stimulating, so we have to avoid it. Many people control their ADHD through smoking. Next, coffee. If you drink more than 4 cups of coffee a day, you got caffeineism. Cut the coffee. Change to decaffeinated. Change to South African rooibos. Cut the Coke, change it to Tab, not Coke Light. Tab is the stuff. No, you don't want any of the other stuff in it. Then you got your chocolates, you got to cut. Chocolate's addictive. Chocolate is a stimulant. Chocolate aids ADHD, so you have to cut it. You could get addicted, you get high, you crash. Then drugs and alcohol. Very important last few things before you go on is the thing about massage or closeness. ADHD or these type of people need to be touched. To be touched all the time. They need a closeness. So we need that. Then we need good sleep patterns. Lastly, as I say to my patient, you have a Fundamerva moment, you have a blonde moment, you're allowed an ADHD moment. So you're allowed to goof. 10% things get screwed up. That's okay. Let's go on with the party, right? And very important is spiritual meditation, religion, yoga, whatever form of meditation that you like or you believe, you need it to relax, to focus, to get things going. Those are the people that can control their life. And lastly, we have a group of ADHD, they have problems with organization. They can't organize. They have problems with procrastination, time management, and financial management. So we have ADHD coaches. We have lovely coaches that work with us. They teach these people skills. So those are some of the lifestyle changes can be used in many aspects of psychiatry, living, sex addiction, ADHD, whatever you say. What do you say, Elna?
Well, I'm looking at your desk at the moment. He's got papers all over, and that's often the one thing. You know, you walk into somebody's office and there's paper everywhere, and that's like a
just like my desk here. Yeah.
But and on Dr. Jeeva's website, there's this wonderful also lists, because we start putting things in place. So a 1-paper rule, file, because that is part of it. If we can't find stuff, then people, they get aggressive, they get angry, they lose their keys all the time. So you start putting systems into place. You know, keys, laptop, jacket. In the morning you go jacket, laptop, keys, or whatever.
And as we wind down, sexual addiction recovery, is it something that we need to touch on? We can touch on as we are about to close. And we're going to give you the website of Dr. Jeeva just before we close. Kaya, we got it here, so that you can just visit that and get some more tips on it.
Okay, this is from an article from the States about top 10 tips of a healthy sexual relation after sex addiction. So sex provides a feeling of well-being, and that's what we have to encourage our patients, make them understand and keep, and so we can get rid, or we can sort of the shame, the guilt that they had along the line, get rid of that. Secondly, emotional and physical sensations are felt. So through sex therapy and love therapy, they have to touch and get close and feel, get to know each other.
Without guilt.
Without guilt is very important. Thirdly, creativity and passion are rediscovered. So the couple finds themselves, and Elna does a lot of this stuff, and she'll know more than I would. Fourthly, you nurture yourself in non-genital ways, and that's again the connectedness, the closeness. And suffering is tolerated as part of life.